What's going on, workforce? Brian and Chris here, and shout out to all the network engineers packet sniffing and helping the developer team find this insane bug that apparently has been with us this whole time. Guys, if you want the nitty gritty details, just my thoughts, I posted it on over on Ginger Prime this morning. But beyond that, Chris and I are going to be talking about the latest update that Yoshi-P gave regarding the server congestion. Honestly, I've been just kind of waiting for this, right? Because one of the things I've seen in the comments over and over again, if you guys have been reading our comments, I think you probably see a theme, is that a lot of people are like, so-and-so on Reddit, they discovered X, Y, and Z. And I'm like the gamer in me is like, that's interesting. The guy who doesn't want to spread accidentally false information and give false hope is like, all right, I'm gonna wait on that. I'm just gonna report on what Yoshi-P says. Today, I think we have the best and most hopeful post yet. But Chris, I texted you this morning. And you said right at the start of this video that you have a happy thought and kind of a frustrated thought. I'd like to give you the floor, man.
So I think the happy thought is that we are 14 days as of this recording into Endwalker, and we have all been given a total of 21 days of playtime. And so anybody who feels like, I haven't gotten to play yet, this is bullcrap, I pay for this, you've been given not only all of the time so far, which is the most expensive time they've ever given out, because there's more active concurrent players now than any time before.
Right.
That this has got to be the record, and they've given away effectively a month times the largest concurrent number they can think of.
Yeah.
So like it's a huge amount of money they've given up, and you still have all of next week. Now, for the people who have been able to play, and you're like, that's not what I wanted. I wish they'd given me a mount. You've effectively been given 3/4 of a month's subscription, just added to your account as a balance. And so if that's $15 a month, that's always how I think about MMOs. They're not exactly that. Then I've effectively been given about $12, which buys a surprising number of things from the store. It doesn't buy a cruise chaser, but it makes a dent in a lot of things, especially if you wait for like the next collector's edition sale where like those go half off and things like that. It makes a big dent. So just kind of like storing it in that mind, I think they're doing this right. I lived through the early days of WoW when they had to give out subscription time and apologize to the community for we didn't know what the hell we were doing all the time. And like, so I've been through this, and I think like, obviously it would be better if they just came out and said, hey, we found a time machine and we're all going to go back and everything's going to be great. But since that's not available, I'm overall very positive about how open and communicative they've been. About the fact that they've been more than willing to recognize that there's a financial burden on people, and that they've been willing to eat that, even as a company that has to realize profits. I'm very positive on all of that. That being said, as somebody that covered all the interviews from the media tour, there was a question from Larry Czar that was, how do you overcome a Realm Reborn technical debt? Will there be a future engine rework in the near future? So it was very engine driven. And the question TLDR, the response was, we don't have 1.0 technical debt. 2.0 wiped that out. And then he went on to talk about like all the things that still need work and everything they've worked on since 2.0. But the idea that we don't have 1.0 debt and then this coming out makes me think you don't have 1.0 debt you know of. And the only thing harder than paying off debt for anybody who's ever had to live with debt, like Brian and I are both like very, very empathetic of that.
It's hard.
You know, it sucks. Paying off my student loans sucked. You know what's even harder is when you get a notice that you haven't been paying a bill for debt you didn't know you had. Like how the hell do you pay that off? So like, I will say that's the downside of this post, is that my stomach drops when I think, no, you said all your 1.0 debt was paid, and now you're saying, hey, it's no big deal. This is just 1.0 debt.
Ooh.
Is there other 1.0 debt that we don't know about?
I wouldn't want to personally like, and like that's a good topic for once we get past this, this issue. I continue to use issue, and I actually put out a post yesterday because there's a part of the Final Fantasy XIV community that is very negative against those who have been impacted by it. Like, I've seen some very harsh language. I kind of lost my temper a little bit on a commenter yesterday, so you guys can go see me get pissed if you're interested in it, because it's like, I'm so happy for those of you who have not had a problem. Like, that's great. Like, your experience, and this isn't directed at Chris, this is directed at second shift workers.
Times,
like, you've had a few times, but I've
had an overall very wonderful experience, technically speaking. Right.
And so that, like, you have essentially a part of the community that's like in full on defense mode, and they're struggling right now to reconcile like this thing that they've never been able to reconcile to this point, where people are talking critically about the game. And the thing is that they all want to play the game, and then there's a chunk of the community that isn't able to. And people are like, oh, here's the 30 things you have to do. And if you're not going to willing to do that, then you're not really serious about being Final Fantasy. I was like, stop, like you're throwing kerosene on a fire, like just chill out, practice. This is a great opportunity to practice empathy. It's a muscle you have to work out occasionally. So I've been looking at that as a point of frustration, and it goes both ways, because then you have like, and Hogue Law should actually maybe be putting out a video today, because I tweeted at him, because I've been seeing like on the opposite side people like, we gotta sue Square Enix, we gotta go and do a class action lawsuit. And I just went, if I was live at the time, you would have seen me spit take all over my monitor, because I was just like, that's ridiculous. Even if you go look at terms of service, like we've given up our right to have any collective like lawsuit, or that they've guaranteed that the service would be available as a part of the terms of service. So I'm looking forward to Hogue's Law, as he's apparently going to be diving into the actual terms of service of Square Enix, because I think that's good information for people to have, so that if ever in the future we see that. So both sides have been clashing in this regards. What this says to me though, like, is I'm not so worried about that. I'm glad they found it, and I'm hopeful that on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, that it's resolved. Because the bigger thing, what I keep trying to set the expectation, and if anybody listening to these words can help with that, is to set an expectation that this isn't going to function like everybody thinks it's going to function. It's not like I saw some kind of clip from Asmongold. I've been trying to like keep it blind, but the ebb and flow. There will be an ebb and flow with population, but it's not going to essentially, you're going to wake up on Christmas morning and there's not going to be a queue time. That reality isn't here. That reality, it will fade slowly, but there's still going to be content patches, right? Like, so remember, like
6.1 will come out. Savage comes out in early January.
Right. And so the real solution still, though, based off of population and what the servers are willing to support, unless they magically come up with new hardware architecture, which that's another topic for another day, it's still going to require more worlds and more data centers in a very tactical function, because you don't want to end up running into what New World's been kind of waiting on, is they scaled up because they can, because they're Amazon and they have, they own all the servers apparently. But right now we're just waiting on server mergers, because we knew that that's exactly what we said was going to happen is going to happen. And that's the same thing with 14. There's a weird ebb and flow. The 21 days I think is historic. I can't remember, and I've been trying to remember this all morning. Like, what was the most free time we've ever been gifted? And I think it's like 2 or 3 days. Like, this is not just the volume of players, but the volume of time as well as one of the most impactful. And I would still bet that if it is still continuing on post January, that's something that's on the table, because their goal is to deliver servers. And this to me is where I got kind of frustrated on people like, oh, Square Enix is only in it for the profits. Square Enix is only, they don't want to invest in servers. I was like, no, they've been trying to get servers. And in fact, Yoshi-P in the post today gives more hope, that he says that we hope that by the end of January, we're going to give you a roadmap for that. And that's not just the Australian, the Oceanic data center. That is also more logical data centers for the North America and Europe, which he names specifically, which tells me that the population is huge. The fact that they then stopped sales, like, all of this is the good news. And everybody who's been like just so like hateful against Square Enix in this regards tells me that they don't know what they're talking about. They literally are just being mad and just kind of yelling at the internet, which I don't think is the right approach anyway. What's
14 days is a lot in one go. Like, I guarantee WoW has given out more than 14 days over their history.
Yeah.
But like, we used to get it kind of like one day at a time. Like, hey, maintenance was extended by 18 hours. We're gifting you all a day. Yeah. Hey, we need another 18 hours. Here's another day. And so like, it was this like just slow trickle of like, you just slowly got like a month gifted to you over 30 separate, basically the same thing, a letter from the developer.
Yeah.
14 in one go is a huge apology. I don't know that, like, when you talk about companies that run with monthly active users as a major data point, they're effectively giving up half of that multiple. Like, these games are communicated to shareholders in monthly revenue.
Right.
So to just in one fell swoop give away half a month to a group of people that you've already given 7 days to for a product that's only been live for 14 days. You've already paid for half the hours to then give them, like, you know, I told this story a while back about your brother when we lived together in college and him getting all the stuff from Mrs. Baird's bakery.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Great
what this
story.
feels like.
Yeah.
Where, like, yeah, you apologized and I accepted your apology. You're like, yeah, and then I'm going to buy you dinner. Oh, well, thanks. And then I'm going to clean your house for you. Okay. Thank you. Right. And then I'm going to mow your lawn.
Oh, okay.
This is getting weird.
You're doing your laundry now.
They've given us a lot. This is an incredibly generous. Now, it would be better if they didn't have to apologize. That is way better.
Everybody's
way
on the
better.
same page. Yeah.
Nobody's like, yeah, but like, I wish they'd had the problems and then fix them differently. No. Everybody wants there to have been no problems.
Let's just assume 3 million active subscribers, which I think is more than fair. I think at $15, which with some of us legacy players are 10. So like the rough numbers, guys, rough numbers. At 3 million, that's $45 million. $45 million. Basically that they're sitting here saying, okay, that's
I want to give
imagine them not having to give that money up, right? Imagine that, and some people will go to the cash shop to support the game because like that I know that's going to happen. I'm not. That's not a negative or a positive. It's just you do with your money with what you want. Because some people are like, no, I'm happy to support because I want to support the game. Because they feel like that it's definitely earned that on that level of trust. And that's why I always say like trust is the key aspect. But $45 million, like, are you telling me like? And then who knows if there's going to be more on the horizon? Like, you're telling me that Square Enix wouldn't want to like take that money and throw that into servers? Like, they're already like, it is. As much as people might be fatigued with the concept of this pandemic that has an actual like supply chain and processor issue that has impacted every line of business, I continue to see people just like deny that logic. And it just really, for me, I'm like, what's going to bring you to reality? Like, what's going to snap you into this mindset of like, guess what? Like, it wasn't this whole like Square Enix's plan for this to be the launch, right? This wasn't their ideal. And I think if anything else, $45 million should communicate to you that they're committed and they're doing everything in their power. And I think that obviously the subscriber number is well over 3 million right now. Not that it will maintain that for a full year.
No. We're going to lose a lot of people. They're going to come out of MSQ and they're going to take a break. And I know
like
that
because
we've been covering this game for 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, and you've been covering it since 1.0. It's just, that's just what games do. It's what New World did. When New World dropped off in population, people were like, wow, what a failure. I was like, you mean because it did what literally every other game does?
Yeah.
Like, WoW launches are like this. 14 launches are like this. Everybody's like, that's just welcome to the club, buddy.
Yeah.
That's why we were laughing that they were scaling up so bad. We're like, oh, you think they're staying, don't you? Like, no, this is a house party. They're not moving in.
Yeah.
Like, most of them are going home. So launches are fun. They're exciting. They are. They're also plagued with bugs, and they're plagued with too many people being in too small of a space for too long. That's what they do. When you lay that on top of the fact that Square Enix likely did say, hey, we need to scale up the server infrastructure going into Shadowbringers, and then they did, and then we had a smooth launch, and then they said, hey, we should scale up the server infrastructure going to Endwalker, and they're like, well, you can't. And they're like, well, then let's just wing it. And then it turns out that's a bad plan.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's that they didn't want to scale up. I think it just isn't available. So they're making the best of what it is. And I've seen a whole bunch of people saying, well, they should just take servers from insert game I don't like here. That's not how that works either. And there's a reason that game is not selling their servers.
Yeah.
Like, no. We plan to do better. And we know that if we give these up, we don't get them back. So, I think people have been frustrated that there are other MMOs that don't appear that server space is the top of their issue list right now. It doesn't mean they're not having it. It just doesn't appear to be the top of their list right now. But every game's has problems. And so, like, that's been one of the hard parts within the 14 community is we get so much right that when somebody wants to criticize, people assume that you're taking the 99 good things for granted. And so the moment you criticize, we tend to, as a community, push that down. And so that makes times like this where, like, the criticism is openly not only valid, but is being received.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, what we're saying, Yoshi-P agrees with.
Yeah.
And so it makes it really hard because as a community, we've been taught, well, if you don't want to deal with complaints, just go play 14. There aren't any. But that's because we take anybody who complains out back and rough them up a little bit.
Yeah. To the point where they don't want to come back. And that's the worst part. Like the thing is that, you know, if this has been impacting you negatively, we've said it here. We'll keep saying it. Like, it's perfectly fine to say, now's not my time. Like, Brian, would you recommend this game right now? If they're a night shift person, 100%. Right. I haven't. And
we start Endwalker tomorrow.
And that's because I'm taking a day off work. Like I was now after Tuesday, I guarantee you Tuesday night, I will do a Q battle stream and we will see if that 2002 has been beaten. Like that's going to be the pure test on that one. And if it has, then victory. That's exactly what it wants.
Which all I can think is like they said, okay, the load of before will be fixed next Tuesday, and then like a brand new giant tidal wave rushes in to test it. It just exposes some new problem.
I hope that's not the case.
It's like we can take the 200 people that were in line last Tuesday. Great, me and my 400 friends will be there next Tuesday to test you.
400. Oh,
that's not what I agreed to.
Tuesday will be interesting. I think that'll be good going into the holidays. Again, like it's the issue for me has just been the fact that if you have to actively monitor it, and people are like, oh, if you go and click on, you can get right back in. Maybe like I literally have been.
You got to sit there and stare at it.
Yeah, and
constantly.
That's ridiculous. That's the issue.
It's not I'm folding laundry while doing Housing Savage. No, you're actively doing Housing Savage. You're actively doing nothing.
Right.
And
you're just looking at it.
It said a lot of people are adjusting the times of day they play, and like that's been my suggestion the whole time. Let's focus on what we can act on.
Right.
Not everybody can move their schedule around.
Right.
But for those of us that can, right? Have you ever been on a plane when it gets in late and they're like, hey, some people are trying to catch a connection. So if anybody wouldn't mind, can you stay seated and we'll just let those people deplane and then we can all get off. And it's just this like general, we all live in a society. Let's just calm down. Can we just act like we all would like to be treated for just 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that? And like, no is the answer. But like we can try. And so for those of you that can move in the morning, when I see 100 people say all 100 of us have no ability to play video games during the hours that McDonald's serves breakfast, all I can think is, okay, some of you are lying. Like most of you, yeah, sure. Your kid has a thing, your work schedule doesn't allow for it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But like some of you have to be able to play during these hours where like the way to get around this line is to just be on the game when there isn't a line.
Right.
So if you have the ability to move your play time from, I normally set aside time in the evenings, I'm going to go to bed early, and I'm going to play in the mornings before work, it really does fix an enormous portion of this.
Yeah, and hopefully this thing on Tuesday fixes the other back half, because more than anything else, people could, like, if you could get off work, get yourself in queue, go make dinner, like spend time with the family. Oh, my queue's almost ready. I'm going to go play. As long as you can have that relationship with the queue, I think a lot of people are going to be very, very pleased with the result, because it's important. Like, they protected the stability of the servers for those playing. They just have to fix the line from that. And
you got 30 minutes after you get in, so you don't even have to be there constantly. Like,
I know, that's actually a good point.
Like, as long as it's not like it logs in and a 60-second timer starts, and if you're not there, it goes, oh, you weren't really here.
You weren't really here.
No, you got 30 minutes.
Yeah. So at the core of it, it's going to be something exciting to see what happens next week. I think this is a good amount of effort by Yoshi-P, and at the end of the day, like, for those of you who like feel like we're making excuses for Square, grow the hell up.
It would be better if everybody just got to play exactly the amount they wanted, exactly when they wanted. That we would all love to live in that world.
Yeah, and that the world doesn't exist.
The only way to do that right now is to play something else.
Yeah,
and like that sucks.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, share if you enjoyed the video. Otherwise, we will see you in our next one. But until then, take care.
Take care.
Take care. Take care.